the topic of today is how to rightly respond to changes or to the change caused by crisis. How to rightly respond to the changes caused by crisis. You remember last night we spoke about change and changes, that your crisis might have been caused by change, that it could be change that is responsible for your crisis. And now, if change is what is responsible for your crisis, how do you then respond to those changes that come to your life as a result of crisis? How do you respond to the changes? Because crisis will always bring one change or the other. Crisis will always bring changes. Crisis will always bring changes. I mean, it's not possible to have a crisis and not to have anything change, for everything to remain the way they are. It's impossible. One of the main reasons for crisis is for change, is for things to change. So it's like what God said about His word. His word doesn't fall on the ground. It doesn't go out without accomplishing the purpose for which it's sent. The same could be said of crisis. Crisis doesn't go out without accomplishing its goal. Crisis doesn't go out without accomplishing the purpose for which it's sent out. It might not accomplish much goal or much purpose, but it's going to accomplish one purpose for sure. It will accomplish the purpose of change. That's one. There is no doubt about it. There is no doubt about it. Crisis is going to bring you to a place of change. Crisis, any crisis, will bring some changes to your life, either good or bad, but you are going to experience some changes. You are going to experience some changes. And your response determines if those changes are going to be good changes or bad changes, but changes will come. So crisis always bring change. Crisis always bring change. So when things begin to change in your life during crisis, how do you respond to that? That is what we're talking about. When things begin to change after crisis or during crisis, what should be my response? How should I respond to those changes? What should be my attitude? How should things be? And that's what we are going to be talking about. How do I respond to the changes that are caused by crisis in my life? Can you imagine if, let's look at different scenarios of crisis. Let's say you lost a loved one. You know, that things will never be the same. Things are going to change, definitely. Anybody that loses a husband or a wife, I mean, that is a big change. That's a crisis. And as a result of that crisis, things will change. Things will change in your home. Things will change in your mind. Things will change in your world. So there is just no way you could experience crisis without experiencing change. And the question now is, how do you manage such a situation? If you've just lost a loved one, and maybe you lost your child, or you lost a husband, or you lost a parent, how do you live further? That's a question people always have. And that is the challenge people often encounter. That how do I live further? How do I manage my life? I mean, especially when you are used to living with those people. If it's your parents, you are used to living with them for all your life. And if it is your husband or your spouse, you know, you've lived a significant part of your life with them. So how do you now live further? How do you manage your life from here? And it's the same thing if it's a child that you lose. It's a big change. It's a big challenge, a big crisis that leads to a big change, or that leads to certain changes. And you must know how to manage those things, those changes. And because if you don't know how to manage change, I mean, after losing a loved one, you know, the natural response is to fall and to drip right into depression. And that will kill you even more. That is going to destroy you. It's going to, bring much more destruction, devastation to you. And, then, well, depression is one response, but another very natural but damaging response is to be playing the blame game. That's another problem people have. When they are going through the transition or change after crisis, they have a tendency of blaming people. Either they are blaming, some people even blame the guy who died. Let's say we're talking about death. You begin to blame the person, your husband. Why did you die so young? Did they agree like that? That was not our agreement. Why did you leave me with the kids? I'll be alone here. So whining, blaming, then other people blame themselves. Some people begin to blame themselves and almost killing themselves that they are responsible for whatever tragedy has happened. And you begin to, kill yourself about whatever has taken place. And so that's a very bad response as well. And, that is poor management of the crisis and of the change. So, those are some of the things that we are looking at, that how do you best respond to changes that begin to take place in your life during a time of crisis or after the time of crisis. So it's one thing to go through the crisis of losing a loved one, but it's another thing to go through the crisis of divorce. Some people go through the crisis of divorce. Some people, when that's a crisis, divorce is a crisis. A broken relationship is a crisis. But you've got to manage that as well, because if you are divorced, you've been living with somebody for a significant period of your life. So, and now you've got to divide your stuff, you've got to separate, you've got to go through the legal documents, the legal processes, you've got to, make, all the amendments with the house, with the properties, with the whatever, you've got to separate your stuff, and everybody, sometimes you have to sue each other, or you have to, So if you don't manage those kind of changes that happen after the crisis of divorce, it's going to leave you a worse person. You could be broken, you could be shattered, and after changes, after crisis like divorce, most of them, more than 80% of, especially the women, fall into a season of depression. So the reason why depression seems to be the normal and the natural response to crisis like divorce is that we have not learned to manage the changes that come after crisis. And but depression will not help you. Depression will only make things worse for you. Depression will make you lose your value. It's going to make you lose your worth, and then you are going to lose your momentum. You are not in the capacity to keep on doing what you are supposed to be doing. You cannot pursue your goals. You cannot pursue your vision. You cannot move forward in your life and purpose. So depression is as a result of poor management of changes, or our inability to manage period of changes that happen, that come to our lives after crisis. And when we talk about divorce, apart from depression, another natural response for most people is the blame game. And blame, sometimes some people who are divorced, they blame the other party. But besides blaming the other party, many of them blame themselves, and that increases their depression and their self-condemnation. But something that could even be worse is that after divorce, people slip into hatred. They begin to hate, live in hatred. And we know hatred is, the Bible says that if you hate anybody, that is, you are becoming a murderer. So to hate is to murder. To hate is to murder. So for you to hate anybody is, in the eyes of God, to be a murderer. So there is nobody that deserves to be hated. That means there is nobody that deserves to turn you into a murderer. If you begin to hate your ex, you are actually, in the eyes of God, worse than that ex. And what makes you to be worse or to become worse than that, your ex, is your response, your wrong response. The response of hatred makes you not just to be to be a victim, but you have actually made yourself to be to be a villain. You've made yourself to be a culprit of evil, and in God's eyes, you are actually now worse than the other guy that offended you. Even though the other guy must have done something horribly wrong, but you are as bad as him in the eye of God, because the Bible says anybody that hate your brother or your sister, to hate anyone at all, is to be a murderer, is to be a brother killer. So you are actually, in the eyes of God, you have condemned yourself. You have you put a knife to your own throat. You're destroying your life. So it's a dangerous place to be. So to avoid all these kind of consequences, and the reason why we all fall into this kind of things and responses, and is because we don't know how to manage changes. We don't know what to do with the changes that happen to us when crisis come, or when crisis has taken place in our lives. So that's why I think that that this topic is quite an important topic, so that we will know what to do, how to best respond to the changing realities around us, and to our changing world after a tsunami or a storm of crisis takes place. Just like now, we're in a storm season of life, and right now, the Caribbean islands are experiencing a lot of storms, and I think they call it Matthew in America, and some people call it Adam, or some people, all kind of names they are calling this. These storms and this hurricane that have taken place these days. But you see, you look at the news, you see that after a major crisis, after a major storm or hurricane, you have devastation. You have devastation. So it's just like in picture. I want you to picture in your mind the kind of devastation that you see in Haiti, or in the Caribbean islands, or in Florida. Of course, many people die, but apart from people who died, can you imagine in your mind all the destructions, all the properties that are pulled down, all the things that are just messed up in the river, walking? That is devastation, and that is a pictorial image of what crisis looks like morally as well. So that is a physical devastation of what happens after storms, or after hurricane in the physical. But it's a similar thing that happens to every one of us, when we go through crisis. You see the way everything is messed up? That's what crisis comes to do. Crisis messes up everything, because just like everybody likes things to be in order. Just like those cities that were devastated by those hurricane and all that, they were in order. They were well-planned, well-managed cities before. But this crisis comes, or this hurricane comes, and just ruin everything. That is the kind of ruin that often happens to people when they lose their loved ones, or when they get a divorce. Another kind of crisis, another kind of devastation that could come, or change that we might need to manage, that we would all need to, that sometimes comes to the life of people, is the devastation or the change that is caused by horrible sicknesses like cancer. Cancer is another crisis. You cannot have cancer and not have a crisis. Anybody who has who is been diagnosed with cancer will tell you that is one of the greatest challenges, crisis you will ever face. Cancer is a bad case. It's a bad challenge, and it's a bad crisis. There is no way you will have cancer and not be challenged, and not go through changes. So that's what I'm saying, that every kind of crisis that comes to you brings a lot of devastation. Crisis brings a lot of change. Crisis it will bring a lot of change. The crisis bring a lot of change. So let's say someone is, been diagnosed with cancer, and of course, changes begin immediately. Changes begin immediately. Changes don't just come after the cancer, but changes begin immediately. So how do you plan your life all over again? How do you start all over again? How do you bring things back in order? How do you run your life? How do you, so people are just thrown into confusion. People are thrown into confusion after a crisis or after a season of crisis like this. So let's say somebody have a cancer. If you don't know how to manage these changes, again, a lot of people who have cancer go into bitterness. They go into bitterness. They go into frustration. They go into so much frustration that they begin to be bitter. They begin to be bitter against the world. They begin to be bitter against themselves. They begin to be bitter against their loved ones, people around them. When it comes to cancer, another unfortunate incident that happens to people is that they begin to think of death and they go into panic mode. They go into panic mode. So that is another thing that happens to people when they are not able to manage the crisis that comes to their lives. The crisis, they change. So how do you manage a case of cancer without going into the fear mood and the panic mood of, because everybody begins to think of, in terms of cancer, everybody begins to think of death. And what people think of death? They think of death as the biggest devastation ever. And people think about death as the biggest tragedy, and they begin to panic and live in fear. And, the response is always bad. And people, because of the panic, then you are not in a position to prepare well for the changes that are taking place in your life. Cancer is a big devastation. You see a beautiful lady who used to have a hairstyle and, when you have cancer, you lose your hair very fast, especially when you're going through chemo and all that. Your priorities change very fast. All those things you used to think that were important, like hairstyle and, barber salon and all those things, and haircuts and, beauty, they just flow over the window. They just go out the window because, you don't have anything to beautify. And even to live, even life itself becomes a challenge. So managing crisis is important. And managing, especially the changes that begin to take place. When it's cancer, changes begin to take place in your body, and you cannot do anything about it. Things begin to happen with you, with your mind. Cancer affects you, spirit, soul, and body, and cancer affects your surrounding as well. It affects your friends. And unfortunately, what happens is when people have cancer, a lot of friends leave them. So how do you manage that? You used to be the center of your world, and now you are all alone in your world. So how do you manage that? And, that could also bring you to a season of bitterness and a season of anger. And, it could bring you to depression. It could bring you to loneliness. It could bring you to frustration. And so a lot of things, a lot of responses that people have during crisis makes the crisis worse. Our responses sometimes make the crisis worse. And our inability to manage the changes that are caused by one crisis or the other, they just make all of us to begin to fear crisis and to think that crises are only evil and crises are only bad, or crisis could only be bad. But with good management and good understanding of crisis, we could actually turn crisis to our reward, to our springboard, to our benefit, and to our testimony. So this is a major question that I would like us to address. But again, I would like to say that the reason crisis comes is because we don't often want to change by ourselves, because we think that change is painful. We think that change is is going to disrupt our comfort, our stability, and that's what the point I was making last night when in the lesson I said our crisis most often is caused by changes. So, and we only change the way the reason crisis comes in the first place is that crisis is a bigger pain than the price or the pain of change. So crisis comes to give us a bigger pain. Crisis comes to shake us up even much more harder. So let's say the change of the pain of the pain that you are experiencing or that you are going to experience by changing is, let's say, 2 out of 10. And you are afraid of undergoing that change because of that pain, the 2-degree pain. And you are so afraid of it, you are so scared of it that you said you will not change. You would rather keep things stable and predictable the way they were. And then what crisis does is that it comes with 10-degree or 100-degree pain. So you are afraid of 2-degree pain and you didn't want to go through change. When crisis comes, it brings 100-degree pain. 100, like times 100. 100-degree pain level. So the pain of crisis is always so much higher than the pain we will go through or the pain that will come when we decide to change. So that's why crisis is a force of change. Crisis always comes to help us undertake the change that we were not willing to undertake, that we did not want to undertake under normal circumstances. So when real crisis comes, we have no option but to change. I mean, okay, for example, let's look at somebody with cancer, and maybe the Holy Spirit or God has been trying to make you do less focus on external things or like on beauty or on, external things like hair making and things, and spend more of that time in, building values or adding values to yourself or building your relationship with the Lord and things like that. And you didn't have time because you say, oh, well, I don't have time, I'm busy, I do this and that. But when cancer comes, that's like 1,000 times more pain to deal with that cancer than what pain you are not willing to undertake by just paying less time and just paying more attention to God. But now you are forced to, because first of all, cancer makes you to even lose the beauty in the first place, and then cancer makes you to lose the hair, all of them. And cancer causes you to run to God. You will be ready to run anywhere. And so that's what crisis does. Crisis is as a result of our unwillingness to change. Crisis is often as a result of our unwillingness to change. And so crisis, we only change when we know that the price of remaining how we are, the price, the pain of remaining how we are, is going to be much more horrible. It's much more painful to remain the way we are than to change. So we'll rather change to avoid the pain that perpetual crisis will be giving to us. So the pain of change, when we know, is that is easier, is smaller than the pain of remaining the way we are. That is why we change. So what I'm saying is that this is all about change. This is all about change, and that change is better to be initiated by ourselves. It is better that we do the initiation of pain. It's better that we initiate the pain. It's better that we don't wait for crisis to initiate change. But if crisis is already here, we should just begin to think about changing immediately, beginning to change all by yourself, and instead of resisting change. Because the more you resist the change, the more the crisis increases. The more you resist the change, the longer the crisis stays. So, it's a natural thing for you to begin to change when crisis come. So crisis comes to announce for you or to you a new season. And to get to a new season, you need to change from where you are right now to the place you need to be. You need to change from the season that you are having right now to another one that has just come. So the pain of change is something that we all need to go through. And it's better for you to go through the pain of change by yourself and to initiate that change than to wait for circumstances, for crises and troubles and problems to do those changes for you. And the change of crisis and the change that is forced upon you is much more devastating, much more painful than the change that you initiate or that you lead by yourself. So one of the ways to be able to manage a change is for you to be the initiator of that change. One of the ways for you to be able to manage change is for you to be the initiator of that change. Don't just go along with the crisis and with the changes that the crisis is forcing upon you. Understand what the crisis is trying to communicate to you. Try to understand the direction that the crisis is trying to get you to change, and be the leader of that change. Okay, for example, if you are having cancer, and then it is almost obvious that you need to change your diet. Anybody that is having cancer and you keep on eating the same thing you are eating, and you keep on doing the same lifestyle as you are doing, then it's like, you are in a long process of pain. So when you know that you are having health challenges, better be the one. Go look for better diet. Begin to change your diet. Begin to change your eating habits. Begin to change your exercise or lifestyle. Begin to make sure that you are initiating those changes. If you don't, it's going to be a very dark hour for you. It's going to be a very dark time. Or for example, if you are going through divorce, and of course things are going wrong and things are getting bad, but why don't you be the one to take charge of that change, of those changes? One of the things that you could do is to immediately say, okay, I'm not going to be bitter, so you are in charge. Or to say, okay, I forgive this, my husband or my wife, I want to forgive this person. It means you are in charge. So since you are initiating the change and you're saying, okay, I understand that we are divorcing, but I'm not going to be bitter. I'm going to start my own life. I'm going to focus. That makes you to be in charge. That makes you to be over the situation. But if you don't want to release the person, you want to remain in bitter, you want to keep on fighting, it's going to become a very long, dark night for you. So one of the things that you could do to really manage the changes that are caused by your crisis is to be on top of it, to take the bull by the horns and to initiate the changes, yourself. One of the things that you want to do in time of crisis is you want to study how other people who have gone before you cope with similar challenges and what helped them to come out of it. So one of the things that you want to do when you are having a crisis or changes are happening in your life is to go into a season of self-education, is to go into a season of studies, research. So go and upgrade yourself in that subject, in that area of, let's say somebody died in your family or one of your loved ones died. Go find a book that would that is being written by people who have passed through that kind of challenge. Go and get from their experience. Go and learn from their experience immediately. But some people, when they are, going through crisis, they don't have time to go and read. They don't have time to study. They don't have time to do research because they are focusing too much on their pain. They are focusing too much on themselves. So a lot of people don't have time for reading or doing because they are doing what we call pity party. They are doing pity party. But, when crisis is there and when changes are taking place and so fast in your life, you need to just hold yourself in the hand, get rid of your pity party, stop pitying yourself, take charge of your life, and go look for a way to educate yourself. Go run and begin to do some self-analysis and some self-education. You need to go out and begin to do research. And as you are doing the studies, make sure you are not doing it with the intent of blaming the other person. Make sure you are not doing it with the intent of finding who to blame. Make sure in your crisis and in your research and in your studies, you are not thinking of who to blame or what the other person has done wrong and all that. No. Make sure that you do what you need to do. You are improving yourself. Make sure that you want to improve yourself. Make sure that you want to find help for yourself. You don't want to go and begin to blame other people. You don't want to go and begin to blame other people. You want to find help and you want to know what you could do better and what could help you to come out of your situation. You want to know what will help you to come out of your situation. So forget about the blame game and forget about the pity party. Forget about pitying yourself. Forget about blaming others. Just, focus on learning the experiences of others, what has helped them in their crisis, what they went through, and, gain from them, study from them, and improve yourself. Make yourself welfare. Make yourself richer inside, and make yourself better inside. And that is much more better. But someone just wrote now that when they were going through their crisis, they only were able to read or study after everything has happened, or after years of when that has happened. Well, you don't wait for but that means that is you are studying after you've suffered. That's what I mean. That be the one to initiate, be the one to be on top of that of that process. Be the one to initiate the process of change. So even though the change is happening by itself, but when you go to do research, to study, you are in charge. You put yourself in charge. You put yourself in charge. Another thing you could do when you are going through crisis is to practice solitude. It doesn't matter what the nature of the crisis is. It doesn't matter what the nature of the trouble is. What you do, go and make sure that you find an opportunity to be alone with God. Nothing like it. Nothing like it. Go and find a place to be alone with the Lord. Go and find opportunity to be alone with God. Go and find opportunity to be alone with God. So, find your room, go away from people. Go away from people, not to be in depression, but go alone from people. Go away from people to be able to study, to be able to think, to be able to do analysis, to be able to hear God. The most important thing you want to do when you are actually going to be alone with God is to hear God. You want to hear what God is thinking in that situation. You want to hear what God is telling you in that situation. You want to hear about what God is trying to teach you, what He's trying to minister to you. You want to go out and discover the heart of God about that situation. You want to go out and know how God sees what you are going through. You want to hear what God is thinking about it. And you want the presence of God and the moment with God to improve you and to change you. So, but, you have to fight. To be alone, at the time when you are alone, if you are not careful, Satan might try to use that alone time to turn you into a victim. But it's so that you don't turn your time to a victim. When you go alone, another thing you could do is that go with materials. When you go to be alone with God, make sure that you find books, you find CDs, make sure that you find messages that are talking about that topic. So go and order as many tapes, as many books, as many messages as possible that relate to that struggle that you are going through. So when you go to be alone with God, you don't just go there and just, thinking and going through trouble. Even while you are thinking, make sure something is being played. You are playing something as well. You are making sure that you are, something is feeding your spirit and you are learning new things. You are taking, getting some experiences and, getting some truth. Because the truth that you are hearing, the truth that they are going to set you free. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. So when you go to be alone with God, we make sure that is also a time of learning. That is a time of maturing. That is a time of growth. Make sure that's a time of growth. That's a time of maturing. That's a time of that you are developing yourself, and that will be turned to a time of healing. And you'll be able to forgive. You'll be able to be whole again, and you even be able to be in a position to minister to other people and to help other people as well. So that is one of the things that you do when you're going through crisis. It will help you to manage that crisis, and it will help you to see with a clearer eyes. It will help you to see with a clearer eyes and a clearer mind. You'll be able to see things totally different from how you are taught things are, and it will help you to get free from your flesh. It will help you to get free from your flesh, and you'll be able to control your thoughts better, and you'll be able to think more in the direction of God's leading, of the lessons that God is teaching you. All right, the next thing you want to do, no matter what crisis you are going through, refuse to be a victim. Refuse to be a victim. Just don't begin to say, well, I'm just a victim here. Oh, somebody did this to me. Somebody did that to me. Somebody did this to me. Oh, okay, it's not fair. Oh, it's not nice. Or somebody did this. Somebody took advantage of me. Or somebody, to stole something. Refuse to be a victim. The Bible says that no matter what crisis or what challenge or what problem or what temptation you are going through, that it is something that every other person goes through in the world. The Bible said no temptation has overtaken you that is not common. No temptation has overtaken you that is not common. So refuse to be a victim. And the reason why the Bible is telling us that no temptation that has overtaken you is uncommon, is that don't begin to say, oh, it's only me that I've gone through this. I am unfortunate. Oh, I'm not lucky. Why is it that my husband has to die? I'm just 35. And why my husband should die at this age? Look, there's nothing new under the sun. Whatever has happened to you, if you are not the first one to lose your husband at 35. Some people have lost their husband at 25. Some people have lost their husband 5 days after marriage. Some people have lost their husband 5 years into the marriage or 5 months into the marriage. So it doesn't matter how bad that thing looks. Refuse to be a victim. If it has happened, then it has happened. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. So don't begin to think about yourself and be thinking why this has happened to you, why only you, and why you are not fortunate, why you are not lucky, and this and that. Nope. Refuse to be a victim. Refuse to be a victim. There is nothing, no temptation has overtaken you that is not common. There is no temptation that has overtaken you that's not common to men. And the Bible says, even your brethren in the world go through the same trials. They go through the same attacks. So why should you build an altar around your tragedy? Why should you build an altar around your tragedy? Then you are just poisoning yourself. You are just poisoning yourself. You are killing yourself by doing that. And you are making things worse for yourself. So it is no more that the tragedy that is killing you. It is now you that is killing yourself because you decided to make yourself a victim. You decided to make yourself a victim. The next thing you want to do to manage the changes that come as a result of crisis is that know in your mind that no matter what crisis you are going through and no matter what challenge you are going through right now, that challenge is only for a season. That challenge is only for a season. That problem is only for a season. So no matter how bad things are, it is only for a season. No matter how bad the thing is, no matter how horrible it is, it's only for a season. No crisis comes to stay forever. No tragedy will last forever. Just as there is no night that will last forever. Night will never last forever. Yeah, night could be dark. It could look so dark. And when things are dark, you don't always see the future. When things are dark, you don't always see clearly. And when things are dark, you don't always see the things ahead of you. So that's what light does, but night does. But night is an illusion. Night is an illusion. So you should know that it is temporary. It's an illusion. So the feelings that you are going through right now, the feeling of darkness, the feeling of darkness and total darkness and total hopelessness that you are feeling right now is an illusion. That is not the reality. You see, your tragedy and crisis makes you to feel that, what you are feeling right now is the reality. And it makes you to think that whatever feeling you are undergoing and whatever thing you are experiencing is the truth. No, that's not the truth. That is the illusion of pain. That is the deception of pain. That is the deception of darkness. That is the deception of the season where you are. So you have to know that no, that's not reality. Even though you are feeling like dying, but that's not the reality. That is an illusion of pain. Even though things are so dark and it's like things are so gloomy and it's like people are bad, people are evil and all that, but that is also an illusion. It is an illusion of darkness. It is an illusion of gloominess. It's an illusion of thinking that everything is bad or everybody is bad. But it's an illusion. And the reason you know that light is an illusion is that when you night is an illusion, is that when you bring light, it disappears. It's an illusion. So it's your choice either to embrace the gloominess and the darkness or to know that it's just an illusion that is there for a season. So don't believe your feelings too much during the time of crisis. Don't believe your first thoughts too much during the time of crisis. You discover that after the crisis is over, that things are not really as bad and as horrible as you thought. Things just need to change. In you, your mindset just needs to change. Your worldview simply needs to change. You just simply need to view things differently. You simply need to begin to see the world differently than you had seen it before. Things are just supposed to be viewed in a different light. That is needed. The only thing that is needed is just for you to change your mindset, to change your worldview, to change your paradigm. So once you change your paradigm, you discover that, my God, so why did I think that things are so bad? Why did I think that people are so evil? Why did I think that nothing good is in this world? But it is because of that kind of illusion, the illusion of darkness, the illusion of sorrow, and the illusion of of uh, of 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 gloominess that causes people to commit suicide. You know what darkness does? The illusion of darkness makes you to stop seeing. The illusion of darkness causes you to think that there is nothing ahead. But the fact that you close your eyes doesn't mean that there is nothing ahead. The fact that you are in darkness right now and you are not seeing the beautiful landscape around you, you are not seeing the beautiful ocean, the beautiful sea, you are not seeing the trees, you are not seeing the sky, you are not seeing the houses, you are not seeing the beautiful people around you, that doesn't mean that they are not there. It's an illusion. Darkness is an illusion. Your tragedy is an illusion. Your pain is an illusion. It doesn't mean that is how the world is. It doesn't mean that is how things are really are. It just means that that is what you are seeing right now. So, but if you will know that that darkness is an illusion, and you begin to see beyond the darkness, and you need to see that by faith, just by knowing that no, there is a better. I mean, now I'm not seeing anything. I'm only seeing darkness, but I know there is a street there with beautiful houses. I know there is a sky in heaven that is blue, that is beautiful, that is wonderful. I know there is a forest out there, there is a park that is, even though you are not seeing anything, but you know it is there. And you know, if you could just hold on more, if you could just hold on longer, if you could just hold on to tenacity, that gloominess will pass and that darkness will pass. And you will begin to see the light of the day again. And you'll begin to see the beauty of the sky. You'll begin to see the beauty of the park, the beauty of the ocean. You'll begin to see the brightness of the street. And you begin to see the beautiful houses and the avenues around you. So darkness and crisis, they are all illusion. So don't be buried by that illusion. Don't be taken over by that illusion. Don't let that illusion become your reality. Don't let that illusion become your reality. And because when that illusion, when you embrace that illusion so strongly and it becomes your reality, what begins to happen is that you don't come out of it. That's why you are in depression for long. That's why you are in hatred. That's why you want to commit suicide. That's why you think people are bad. That's why you are negative, but you don't need to believe the illusion. It's just a season. Just like night is a season, and night would never stay forever. Night is an illusion because it goes. If night were not to be an illusion, it will not disappear, it will not go. If night were not to be an illusion, it would not be replaced by morning. But any kind of night, no matter how dark they are, no matter how long it takes, the night shall be replaced by a glorious dawn. So since the dawn is coming to replace the darkness, it means that darkness is not even something that you are supposed to, to hold on to in the first place, because it's going to be replaced. It is temporary. It is temporal. So it's an illusion. And don't live in the illusion. Live in the reality of the truth that is beyond the darkness. Live in the reality of the truth that is beyond the crisis, that is beyond the pain, that is beyond the sorrow. Okay? Another thing you might want to do to manage your crisis is the realization that your crisis has not come to kill you. Your crisis has come to make you better. No matter how bad and horrible that thing looks like right now, no matter how bad and horrible that crisis looks like, no matter how bad and horrible that situation looks like, really, it has not come to kill you. It has only come to improve you. The crisis has not come to kill you. The crisis has come to make you better. The crisis has come to make you better. So you have to have that at the back of your mind. Because the Bible says that it will not allow any temptation or problem or crisis come to you that is bigger than you, that you are not able to deal with. So it will not allow, it will not give room to a crisis or problem that is stronger than you, that will kill you, that will destroy you, to come your way. So it means that no matter how bad that crisis is right now, it's something that you can handle. God has allowed it to come your way because He knows that you can deal with it. God has allowed that crisis to come your way because He knows that it is something in your scope of authority. It's something that you can deal with, and the reason that you can deal with it is because that has been allowed, that it will not kill you but make you better. So just know that this thing, I'm supposed to respond well, and I'm supposed to begin to find ways to make it better. I'm supposed to find ways of how to make this thing make me better. How can I do? What can I do? And what are my responses that will make me become better as a result of this crisis? So those are the kind of changes, kind of questions you want to begin to throw yourself. How can I respond well? How can I make this to bring the better of me out, the best out of me? Okay, another thing that will help you to manage your crisis and the changes is that know that any crisis, no matter what it is that you are going through, is supposed to help you come closer to God. So begin to find ways to draw closer to God. Begin to do what you could not do before. All the things that you are too busy to do, all the things that you are too distracted to do before. Now that all the distractions are getting away from your life thanks to the crisis, begin to find a way of devoting that time that you have free to God. Begin to do more things for God and with God. And for God, I don't mean in going to church or going to do things physically for God. I'm talking about building personal relationship with God. So use the time of crisis to be an opportunity for you, not to be going from one mountain to the other and deliverance from one deliverance to the other, or from one generational curse to the other generational curse. No, that's not the kind of thing I mean. When I say it brings you closer to God, I'm talking about personal relationship, that it should help you to build your own personal walk, your own personal relationship with the Lord. So get rid of, don't just be running from one meeting to the other, or from one prophet to the other, and making people, because what you are doing that way is that you want to get rid of the crisis. But really what you're supposed to do is to use the crisis to make you to become closer to God. But when you're just looking for prophets and from mountain to mountain, you are just actually looking for solution. You are not looking for change. You are not looking for change, and then you are not coming closer to God. You are just, trying to, get a pain reliever. You are just trying to get a pain reliever. But you are supposed to actually use this situation to stay still, stand still, and, come closer to personal relationship with the Lord. Come closer to God in your personal relationship. The next thing you need to do when changes are coming after crisis or during crisis is that tell yourself one word: I need adaptation. I need to adapt. When the changes are happening, just make sure you adapt. Just like we all adapt to, like now we are getting ready for winter here, and just you get wear winter coats and you get adapted. So that's the way you need to adapt. During crisis, adapt to the new season. Just know this is life, and this is a new season, and I need to adapt to it. So when summer comes, you also remove your winter coat and you adapt. You adapt and begin to wear your summer clothes and begin to open your windows more. And so that's the kind of thing you need. That every season needs its own adaptation. So get adapted and make you sure you just know that you need to change and adapt and make it look easy, make it look natural. Don't resist it. Don't begin to wear no t-shirt when you are -10 in the street or -20. Don't begin to wear your t-shirt in winter. Don't begin to wear your winter coat in summer. make sure you adapt to the new season you have in your life. Adaptation is another thing that will really help you to manage the change that you are going through. Another word that you want to remember when you are going through crisis is the word patience. Patience or endurance or perseverance. Patience. Make sure you are patient enough. Make sure you develop your patience. Make sure you develop your stamina to be patient, to persevere, and to endure. Make sure you develop your endurance, patience, and perseverance during the time of crisis. If you wait long enough, if you will be tenacious enough, you will overcome. So that's why tenacity will take you and bring you out of every situation, out of every circumstance, out of every crisis. Another thing you want to do to manage your crisis and the changes well during your crisis is you need to begin to review your priorities. You must review your priorities. You must begin to ask yourself question, what are the most important things in your life? Have you been dedicating your time, your energy, and your resources to the most important things in your life? You want to put your life around your priorities. You want to begin to build your life around your vision, around your calling, around your purpose. And you want to begin to do things that are only facilitating your calling, your purpose, and your destiny. You want to make sure that these things that are not the most important thing to your life are being removed. You want to rearrange your priorities. People pleasing has to go. Seeking has to go. And trying to do things for the sake of other people have to go. And you just have to get rid of the unimportant things that you spent a lot of your years, on, and begin to now focus on the only thing that matters: your calling, your purpose, and make sure that they have become your priorities. Make sure that they have become your priorities. Get rid of the junks. Get rid of the excesses. Get rid of the excesses. Well, what time is it? Of course, my time is over. My time is over. I hope that helps you a little bit. And if you have not yet shared the link to this message, please go ahead and do it. Make sure you share the link so that you could watch it again, so that you could watch the message again. So share this link and watch the message over and over again. That should be able to help you to become a better person and to be able to deal with your changes and with the crisis that will come to the life of every one of us. It will help you to deal with it better. It will help you to deal with it better.